Hey guys, ready to design some 3D sets in Moho? Because that's what this course is all about. This Moho Pro course was originally published on Udemy and is now being placed on YouTube for archival purposes. Each week, I will be posting a chapter from the course right here. If you still want access to my original work files or the entire course at once, you can check that out in the description below.
For this video, we are working off of 04going3d.moho, and we are looking at the 2D scene that we quickly put together in the previous lesson. So now it comes down to creating 3D objects and assembling your scene, but not only that, assembling the scene so that it's easy enough to work with and manipulate. Because sometimes when you go from 2D to 3D inside of Moho, things can get a little bit wonky and it can be hard to tell what's going on. So just as long as we have everything properly set up, we should be good to go. Now, the first thing you want to keep in mind when doing this is you should always, or at least I recommend you should always, make a group layer when assembling a 3D scene. If you put all of your 3D assets inside of a group, it'll make controlling the scene easier, and it essentially gives you access to a second camera. So what we'll do right now is click on the sky, hold in Shift, click on Rock 4, and then we'll right click and choose Group with Selection. So now this will put everything into its own folder. I'm going to name it Scene and then hit Enter. So now in 2D, if we grab this and move it around, it's grouped, which is nice. We can go in here and work with everything else individually. So now the next thing we want to do is convert everything to 3D. So we'll double click on Rock 4, and that's going to bring up our layers settings. Now on the far right on the top is a tab called 3D Options. So tap on that, and here you can see we have 3D conversion set to none. Let's go down and change this to Extrude. And for right now, we're going to come in and remove the silhouettes, materials, and creases, because sometimes that doesn't quite work how we want it, and it can lead to some weird coloring issues when you have the 3D objects moving. But we'll keep shading set to Toon right now. Again, that's something else we might change, not really sure yet. So now, before you go in and apply this, we want to come over here to our layers and make sure we select them all just by clicking once on Rock 4, holding in Shift, and then clicking on Sky. Now, I guess my options didn't quite save, but that's okay. Just make sure it's set to Extrude, your edges are turned off, and it's set to Toon. And once you're good, you can click OK, and this should now apply the settings to all the layers. So here, we're looking at a scene and it looks terrible because all we see is the sky. What's going on? Well, it's the way it's rendering things out and also the layer ordering. When you're working in 3D space in Moho, you can work with 3D two different ways. You can keep the traditional way it's using layers, and it kind of uses it as a hybrid. So I can come in and I can move things around, but ultimately, because the sky is extruding out, I'm assuming, we're not able to quite get it. Now, if I come in here and I put the sky in front of the sun, you can see now we're getting different results. So right away, it's a bit of a mess. But one thing we can do to help us, at least this helps me, once you have everything established in a group, is to double click on that group. And then you want to tap on Depth Sort at the top. And here you can see we have some options and they're all turned off. Let's enable Sort Layers by Depth and then Sort by True Distance, and then we can click OK. Now you'll see what happened was immediately it shifted all my layers. And all this means is now when I'm going through and I'm trying to reorder my layers, let's say I want Rock 2 above Sky, I can't do it. You can see no matter what I do, I can't get that layer to go above the sky in the layer ordering. However, since we're now on depth ordering, if I take the transform layer tool and I come up here to the Z property, you can see as I start to bring it out in 3D space, it is now going above the sky. And if I go back in 3D space, you can see now it starts to go down the list. So essentially, you're now able to take all the layers that you have and move them around, and wherever you move them is where it's going to order them, because now it's working properly within 3D space. The only issue we really have right now is nothing is how it should be. The rocks, the sun, and especially the tree are all misshaped. They're not quite how we want them yet. And of course, the depth is all wrong. The mountains should be way out in the distance, and these are all things we can do. So we'll pause here, and up next, we'll move on to those steps. For this video, we are working off of 05 arranging set.moho. And here we are, once again, looking at the 3D set we're in the process of building. There are a few things we can do right off the bat to help set up this 3D scene. The first is to figure out the ground, because right now it's not currently set up in 3D space properly. We wanted to go back into the background. And at any time, if you want to see what's going on with all this, you can use the orbit tool. Just by clicking on this, you can come in and click and drag, and you can see exactly what this looks like. And right now, it's not looking how we want it to look. But that's okay, because we're going to change that right now. So I can click on Reset View to bring it back to default. And I want to find the ground, or in this case, the lava. So once you locate that, let's come over here and grab the Rotate Layer XY tool. Now, if I come in here really quick and just hide some of these things, you can do so by clicking on the eyeballs next to any of the layers. I'm just going to hide everything in that folder except for lava. And here, we can come in and play around with this and get an easier view of what's going on. So if I come in and start to rotate it like this, you can see now we're actually putting it into the background and placing it so that we can create a proper 3D environment. Now, when I release, we'll get some numbers up above for the X and Y rotation. And really, we only need to worry about the X rotation. So let's put in 0 for Y rotation and then -90 for X. That will bring it to a perfect 90-degree turn. And once again, if we use the orbit tool, you can see it looks like it's being placed further into the background now. Especially if we bring back, let's say, the sky. You can see the difference. So let's reset our view. And when we reset the view, we can move the camera around, or as I said, the scene folder acts as a camera itself. So if I were to bring just everything back here really quick, we can see here if I grab the scene folder and with the transform layer tool and move it around, we can essentially create a camera, and we can use the XY rotation to do the same thing. But what we really want to do here is focus on the lava being correct. So all we have to do is come over here to the lava, and with the transform layer tool selected, which is M on your keyboard, we're going to hold in shift, which will lock the axis in which we can move this layer, and then just move it down like so, until about like that. Now, it's not perfect. We still have some work to do. We need to determine the height, but by doing this, it gives us a starting point. So from here, we can come in and start to play with different things, particularly the scale. So with the transform layer tool still selected, if you look on the top, in the center, you'll have scale for X, Y, and Z. And here, we can come in and play with this further. Now, we want the lava to go way out into the distance. And so right away, we might want to come in and play with the Z properties on this, or the X properties, depending on how you've moved this around. Or I guess the Y properties in this case. So if we come in, we can expand the Y property out, and it's going to go further than into the background. And I'm not quite sure how far I want it to go yet. But you get a preview of what's going on as you make these adjustments. So I put the Y all the way up to 20, and you can see it's going back into the distance. Now, if I were to come in and adjust some of these other things. Like if I wanted to adjust the height, I could, and I still might do that. I'm not quite sure how high up I want it yet, but for the X value, we can blow it out so that it looks like it's going to cover the screen. So once again, if I were to come in and hide all these other things going on, you'll see here what this is starting to look like. Now, if we want to go by the sketch, and we definitely can, we can grab that lava layer now with the transform layer tool, holding shift, and then just move it up so that it goes about like that. Now, you're going to run into this issue where we're seeing the front of the lava, and that's okay. We don't have to bring it all the way up. We can, and then go in and make modifications to the size if we wish. But here, I think just having it right about there is fine. We don't have to have it exactly in the center, and we can make adjustments as we go. But now, what this will do, you can see we have a rock here. I just brought in rock 2. If I take the transform layer tool and just use the Z properties to bring it closer, you can see I have now the ability to bring this down, and it will hide within this 3D layer, which works because we are creating lava or liquid or something where we're going to have certain objects submerged within it. And so having this effect set up can help us achieve those results. So with that said, I'll pause the video here so it doesn't get too long, and up next, we'll keep constructing this scene. Now that we have the ground assembled, we can keep working on building up this scene. So the first thing we're going to do is bring in the background elements, and this includes the sky, hills, and mountains. Now, when I started doing this, originally, I brought all these in and made them 3D. We really don't have to do that in this case, now that I'm thinking about it, because they are in the background, and really, they have very low priority when it comes to what's going on in the scene. And so we're probably not going to catch that they're 3D at all. All that should be focused more on the foreground elements. So in this case, we're just going to take the sky, the hills, and mountain. I can double click on mountains, come over here to my 3D options, and I'm just going to turn it off. And let's make sure we do that for the sky, hills, and mountains, and then we can click OK. And that will bring everything back. Now we'll have to adjust the sky and the hills properly within 3D perspective. So we're going to take the transform layer tool and click on the sky, and then using the Z property, we're going to push this back until it goes back behind everything else. And you'll know when this has happened when it goes behind the lava layer on the folder itself, because as we push these things back, that will change the layer order based on the depth sort we have established with the scene folder. So once you have that set, you might have to come in here now and adjust the size of this so that we can fill up the whole screen with that color. Now we're just going to do the same for the mountains and hills. So the mountains can come next. We'll just hide the hills for a moment. And using that Z property, we'll just push it back. So right about there should be fine. And then we can come down like this. And as we can see, I guess I was wrong. It's not quite behind the lava. So let me just push it back a little bit more. And we can see it's now going behind the sky. And we might have to make some adjustments with that. So we can come into the sky and then push that back a little bit more as well. There you go. So now you're starting to get this. Just fill up the screen a little bit more. And since the mountains have been pushed further into the back, we might want to come in and add some more mountains. So we can easily do this by using the Add Point tool. I'm going to turn sharp corners on with the Add Point tool, so that way we can just quickly come in and make these points. I'm just going to add a few points on each side here, and then take the Transform Points tool. And then once again, we can come in and start to move these things around and just reshape the mountains and get it how we want it. And I guess we probably don't need that one point there. It's not the end of the world, but I can come in with the transform points tool and just click on it and then delete it. And perhaps just extend that one out a little bit like that. And coming in, I can keep going here. So I might just go like this. And just add a little bit of variety. They don't always have to go down all the way. So something like that. And like that. And that's looking pretty good, I would say. Again, it's not the best thing in the world, but it will work for our purposes. And then we want to grab the hills and do the same thing. So we're just going to push that into the background and try to get it in front of the mountains. So just like that. And then we can either add more of these, or we can just kind of come in and stretch it out and place it down like so. So now you have that working for us as we continue. Now, the other thing you can do, and it depends on how you plan to work with the camera, and that is make the sky stationary. So for instance, if you have a lot of 3D movement going on and we are moving the camera, you can see eventually we're going to bypass the sky and you're just going to see, the white edges of the canvas. Let me just undo that. So one way you can fix that is to come over here to the sky and double click on it. And you'll see on the bottom where it says options, we have immune to camera, but it's grayed out. The reason for that is because we have it within the depth sorting layer. So what we can do is take that sky layer and bring it outside of that group. Now it will allow us to come in and turn on immune to camera and then hit apply or OK. So once you do that, now the sky is outside the scene, but that's okay because we want it to just kind of be everywhere at once anyway. So if we come in now and we move this around, you can see that the sky does not glitch out on us, so to speak, or we see the white edges or anything like that. So with that now established, I'll pause here and we'll move on to the next step as we continue to rearrange the scene. We are now working off of 07 Arranging Set Part 3 .moho. And we now have everything set up to the point where we have the floor, we have the background elements. So now we want to work on arranging the set so that we have something to work off of when it comes time to animate. Now we can use the sketch for this. So you can see we still have that original sketch within the layers. And if we bring it up above, we can kind of get an idea of what we originally had in mind. Now, the thing is, we can turn this off and turn it back on. It kind of is a pain to do that, but that is what I'll be doing for right now to kind of go in here and just reference that. But we can also just use our own sensibilities as well and arrange as we go. We'll figure it out. So what I'm going to do here is just come in and bring everything back. And starting with Rock 2, I can take the transform layer tool and just kind of bring it over like this. And if I once again bring back that sketch, you can see I had a rock here on the bottom left to start. And so that's kind of where I'm going to go with this. So we'll place that rock close to that point. And if you want, you can come in and rotate that rock as well. Let me make sure I'm on that layer when I'm doing it, just to add a little bit more depth to it if you wish. And you can rotate it. And you can also come in, if it's too wide or whatever, using the Z properties, you could adjust the width this way. We can also adjust the height as well as the width going out that way. So again, you can play around with this and get it where you want it. But we'll just put it right there for right now. The next item on my list, I'll just go down the list here on my layers, is the sun. And I actually forgot to include that in my last video when working with the background elements, but it's not a big deal because I'm just going to do it right now really quick. We'll just go in and turn this off of 3D and click OK and just push that into the background. It can go as far as it wants because the sky is outside of this, but we'll put it just a little bit past that mountain right there. And then I can come in and just resize it a little bit like so. And place it over like that. And we might work with that as we go, but we'll see. So there you go. You have your sun. Now next is the tree. This might take a little bit of work because we have to come in and rearrange some things, particularly with the width and the branches. So we'll see how this goes, but let's just bring it up and closer to us so we can get a better look. So it kind of looks like this. I'm going to come in and scale this down. We'll just zoom out so we can grab this. And it might also be easier before you resize to use the set origin tool, or O on your keyboard, and set the origin on the bottom where the trunk is like that. So now when you come in and resize and rotate, it'll go from the bottom just like that, which will make the process easier. So there we go. You can kind of bring it up like this and submerge it in. Now, if we come in and rotate this, you'll see the tree looks like this, and it's not probably the best looking thing in the world. We can kind of arrange it like this, and it still kind of looks a little bit wonky. So we might have to come in and make some adjustments to the tree. And we can do that by adding in additional 3D objects to the tree. But for now, I'm going to just leave this here, and we'll move over to the other 3D objects, and then we'll put this into its own video where we modify the tree. So we have our rock there. Actually, we have two rocks right here. So let me see what we have going on here. That rock, I can come in and shrink this down and get it into position where I feel it needs to go. So maybe about right there. Come in, rearrange things a little bit. And of course, we can adjust the width and all that, get it submerged. And that's looking pretty good. So we'll put it about like that, maybe just like this there. So then we can come down to the third rock, kind of bring it up like that. And we can kind of leave it there. Maybe we bring it more into the foreground. I'm not even really sure yet. And we can continue to play with this for as long as we need to. But I think I actually will put it more in the background. So probably about like that, just sort of offset, maybe even a little bit more pushed out. There we go. Then you have the lava, which is fine. And then you have the hills, which we worked with. And then you have everything else. So we might want to come in and fill things out a little bit with more rocks and scenery pieces. But first, we'll want to modify the tree so that it looks more appropriate in 3D. And then we can go to the next step where we add more variety using different pieces. So we'll pause here, and up next, we will work on the tree. In this video, we are working off of 08 modifying tree.moho, so feel free to open that up if you wish to follow along. So with this tree, we need to make some modifications so that it looks less awkward. Now, we could go in and make everything separate in terms of the branches, but I think we'll start with this and just build it out and see how it goes. And then if it still doesn't look quite right, we can think about modifying those branches originally. So the first thing I want to do is right-click on the tree layer and then choose Group with Selection. So now we have a new group layer with the tree, and we can actually come in here and name this one Tree. And I'm going to take the origin for that tree group layer and attach it to the bottom, where we have the origin point for the tree on its own layer, or close to it. So now, in this new group layer, we're going to come in and make a new vector. And I'm just going to name it branch. Now, we'll take the eyedropper and select the color for the tree. And then, coming up to the Add Point tool or using A on your keyboard, you can come in and start sketching out a branch. So it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can look similar to the other ones that you have designed. So maybe something like this. Oops, we don't want it to attach there. We want it to go down and then over like this, and then come in like so. Now we will create a shape using the Create Shape tool. And we now have a new branch. From here, I'm just going to come in and modify some of these points. Just like that. So that it's a little bit skinnier. Now, we'll go down here to that branch, go to the 3D options, and we will extrude it, and we'll turn off the edges for it, and then click OK. Now, we can take the Rotate XY tool and come in here and start to rotate it out, and then try to piece it in with the tree. So right now it's too far back. I want to bring it out in front. So we can come up here and just bring this out a little bit. And the other thing we can do too, each time you make a group, if you wish for it to follow along like we are with the scene where everything is depth based, you'll want to double click on that group, go up to depth sort, and then turn that on, and then click OK. So now, as we move the branch, once we actually get past the point where the tree is, it'll actually reflect that within our layers. So just like that. Now, of course, this isn't quite working because the branch is way out of proportion. So we're going to come in and we will reduce the Z property to, let's say, 0.1. And we can look at these other properties as well, but I think we can leave this pretty close to where it was. I might modify Y a little bit and maybe just punch out X slightly. Now, taking that Rotate XY tool again, you can come in and try to line this up, and we can bring it up so that it looks like now it's a little bit more 3D. So you attach that branch to the tree, and we can come in here and just rotate the tree really quick, and you'll see now we have that going on. So the idea is to go through and add a bunch of branches to this, so that way we have more of a 3D look occurring. And not only just having branches, but varying branches of size and rotation and all that stuff. So I'm going to pause here for right now, and in between videos, I'm going to just add in a few branches to the tree. And again, I'll be using the same exact method I used here. You might even find duplicating the branch from here. So we can come in and duplicate that 3D branch, and then we can move it around with our tools here. So come in and here you go. You move this around, you can modify it, rotate it, do what you need to do. So between videos, I'll do that. And you can do it as well, but you can also just catch the next exercise file where we'll have all the branches in and ready to go.